topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Donna Campbell with Real Estate Dreams and Beyond, your local or Floridian real estate show. And today I am joined by some fabulous guests, and we're going to be talking to you about the scariest stories in real estate. And most of this is going to cover mortgage fraud, title fraud, rental fraud, just things that can happen that you may not anticipate. So stay tuned for those updates. But before we get there, I want to let you be introduced to my show host, co-host, Jeff Enos with Elsie's Credit Solution. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, everybody. How's it going, Donna? How's this week going for you?
It's going fabulous. It's a little rainy here in South Florida today. What's it look like in Texas?
Well, last night we had an intense lightning storm. Definitely looked like there was a tornado outside, which there wasn't. But there was something. It was different. It was a lot different from what I'm used to in Florida.
Oh yes, I remember the Arkansas storm. So
nonstop lightning for an hour. Literally, it was like a fireworks show.
Oh wow. Well, I'm glad that you guys are safe and not flooded, right?
Just a little bit of flooding, but we're good to go.
I also have with me today two special guests. First, I'd like to introduce the director from Core Title, Jill Montague. Hi, Jill.
Hey, how are you, Donna? Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Hey, Jill. How's it going?
Pretty good. We've been getting pretty intense lightning storms down here, too, so you're not missing much.
It's still 102 degrees out here as well.
Oh,
so it's a very interesting combination.
We only get breaks when it rains. Otherwise, it's about there too.
It was so hot this morning. One of the things that I always tell everybody in Florida is every day at 3:00, guess what you can count on?
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting it in the middle of the night too, which has been pretty interesting.
I'm looking forward to hearing from both of you as we get into the show today. Our other special guest is Stephen Brock with Family Mortgage.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Doing good.
Now, Jill and Stephen, as well as Stephen and I, do a lot of business together. I've even heard them say they're work partners before. So I'm sure each of them is going to bring us some great updates on staying away from fraud. But before we roll into that, this past week, the Fed released that they were not going to be increasing rates again, which we are all extremely excited about. And to touch base on that and explain it just a little bit more, we have a short video from you. For you from me.
So what's going on in the mortgage world right now? What's happening in our market? So the Fed did come out earlier this week saying that they're actually doing nothing with the rates. They weren't going to have a hike like usual. So that's great news for us. But we were already kind of expecting that. Most investors in the secondary mortgage market were expecting that to happen. The caveat is, the curveball they kind of threw us was that their comments after they said they were going to raise the rate. They said they are possibly going to raise it one more time this year and that they're going to lower it next year twice, which that sounds like great news, but in reality, they said they were going to lower it next year 4 times, but now they've already reduced it to 2. What's happening is the inflation, though it is lower, it's not quite as low as the Fed wants it when they're voting on that. Even though we have a strong economic boom coming and the job report is strong, they still aren't satisfied where inflation is really going to be happening here soon. I think that possibly that businesses are going to start putting pressure on the Fed, because what's happening is they got their business loans maybe during COVID or right after, where they were 3-4% for that business loans, and those loans usually are 3 to 4 years long. What's happening is those loans are coming to an end, and as they end, they're going to have to get new loans, and when they get those new loans, they're at 8, 9, 10%. You have to remember that the Fed raising the rate doesn't raise just mortgage rates. It raises business loans, auto loans, your credit card rates. It raises all those different interest rates up there. So businesses might start putting pressure on the Fed to start lowering rates because they can't do the typical business they are doing, which is going to slow down the economy even more past what we want.
That's so good, Stephen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good. I love all of the keywords going across the screen and the simplicity that you explain that. And so let's just talk about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing out there in the mortgage market right now, Stephen?
I mean, things are kind of, I want to say they were slow. We had a nice, like May was really good. And then that's when the Fed came back out and raised the rates again. And then it kind of, the summer, everything kind of tapered off. They were raising rates. And then now that they said, hey, we're not going to do it now, some people came back looking again. I mean, they're still pretty high out there compared to what they were. So it's still kind of a shock to people when they're seeing their stuff. It's kind of a weird spot. You know, when we say the Fed, there's a panel that's voting. And I think they're at I think 12 said for keeping the rate the same and not raising it. 12 said don't raise it. And you had 8 or 9 that said to lower it. So you can see that they're almost at a 50-50 mark. They need a couple more people to come over to say, hey, we need to start lowering it. The inflation might not be exactly where we need it to be, but we're tightening everything else too much for it to be actually, we're doing more damage now than we are doing good. So we might start seeing them getting more pressure on them to start lowering the rate to get the market to move a little bit more.
Just out of curiosity, mortgage loans that you've closed over the last few months, let's say since May, are you seeing those at a much higher price point or than the average market is at 600,000, or are you seeing that below?
Probably right in the middle. You're seeing it. I mean, there are a couple that I've had that are definitely way over that mark. And of course, a couple that are a lot lower than that, but they're basically right in that middle, maybe, fluctuating 100,000 here or there on there, between 500 and 700 seems where our market is at right now.
And this is going to have a toll on it's going to make even the inventory even shorter now, with people not staying away from the market. They hear that rates aren't going up and potentially going down. I think this triggers the consumer to go out there and buy, not understanding the difference between if the rates are up but there's no inventory, you're still going to want to buy. Do you think that's going to bring in a bit more business? How do you think that flow is going to be?
It probably will bring in more people. It's still at that point where, we don't have a lot of inventory. And that's because people are, I want to say house broke. They got so much equity. They got such a low rate that they're like, I'm not moving, because if I move, I got to get either the same payment for less of a house or more payment for less of a house, or I'm not really, unless they have to move kind of thing.
Heard that.
So I think we're still going to have an inventory issue until rates, most of the people I've kind of talked to, they're like, hey, if anywhere in the 5s, if it hits 5s, they're out of their house. They're ready to go kind of thing, because now they're comfortable with what they're going to be getting in that payment with it. So you might see rates start coming down, and now you're going to see more buyers come, of course, because there'll be more people will qualify and more they can buy, which might start driving prices up. But then you might start seeing more inventory start coming because people are more comfortable of leaving their 2s or 3 rate for that 5 in a house that they love, instead of a 2 or 3 with the house they might hate, kind of thing.
Right.
Hmm.
And if somebody knows that, with prices being driven up, if they know they can sell their house for more than they anticipate doing it now in the future, they're more likely to put it on the market as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which then is going to be bring it to a buyer's market, which then turns around and because of the short inventory, and I guess this is a good segue here, is getting into fraud with many people looking for homes, apartments, and what have you. It seems that you guys are tackling a bit more fraud now than is it more than ever before, or are you just seeing that that the criminals are being more creative? Um, what
Well,
what
that
are we
one's
seeing? Because
Jill.
I'm really in the credit world. We deal with the fraud after the fact, right? So I'm not in the middle of it saying, okay, here's the fraud. Nobody's gonna call me to fix somebody else's credit. It's just it's that that doesn't make sense. But we definitely see a lot of people who have been damaged by fraud, but mostly identity theft. And we have great ways to fix those, great ways to fix those things. So yeah, what are we seeing?
Well, most of the fraud that is happening here in the United States, that we see in real estate transactions, are from people and entities overseas, mostly in places like Venezuela, Russia, and Turkey. People sort of figuring out little loopholes to take advantage of, not just the consumers, but property owners here in the
Mm,
United States. So one of the things that we've been dealing with an awful lot lately is like absentee owner and vacant land fraud. And what's happening is fraudsters, mostly in these 3 countries that I've named, have figured out ways to create new identification, to create false identification. They've even gone so far as to connect with people and embassies in their local countries, pay them off, whatever the case, get them involved. They've literally been posing as owners of these properties in ways that are so sophisticated you wouldn't even believe it, in order to pose as the owner of these properties, to sell these properties. And for the most part, up until very recently, they've been kind of successful. And there have been a lot of underwriters and title companies who have actually closed these transactions and issued owners' policies
wow.
to the new owners. And then, you know, all of a sudden, the person who is not a fraudster, who came through a bona fide transaction, or so they thought, to purchase this property, will get a notification of a lawsuit from the actual original owner, who's realized his identity has been stolen. And now the buyer's being sued, the title company's being sued, the agents involved are
Ooh.
being sued, any purchase money entities, lenders, brokers, whomever's involved on that side is getting named in these lawsuits. And the big
Maybe the fraud got her.
I was I was gonna say, oh no, they found she was letting the cat out the bag.
I'm sure she will be back on with us in just a little bit, but
But
I'm really
that has
interested to know, like, what is it that's creative, like an example of one thing that they may be doing. I mean, I'm sure they've probably stolen somebody's identity, but there she is.
yes.
see, I was like dropping the dime on all these international bad players.
Yeah.
So what is something that they would do, Jill, that that's creative fraud wise that we might be on the lookout for?
So anytime you are involved with a listing, or whether it be a single family home, condo, commercial property, vacant land, whatever the case, anytime you're dealing with an absentee owner, in other words, anytime you're dealing with an owner who is not here physically in the property, or here physically in the state. That before it wasn't a red flag, but now that's a red flag. Anytime you're dealing with an owner who is not physically here, who you've not laid eyes on, right? That it should provoke. We will have to, in these cases, as a transferring entity, as an intermediary, have to track these people down, FaceTime with these people, have conversations with them, take screenshots, send them to our under. Like we're having to go through all these additional steps to identify people that we never had to do before, because these fraudsters are legitimately creating some of the best false documentation that any FBI investigator, anybody's ever seen. Additionally, it's always been a thing. People have always created fake IDs, fake passports, but now these people are somehow obtaining they're connecting. Previously, we, depending on who your underwriter is, entitle would allow for like a notary or the equivalent to a U.S. notary in a foreign country that the United States has a treaty with to execute transfer documents as if they were a U.S. notary. So in other words, like say you have a seller, Donna, who is in Italy. Previously, I would have been able to allow for that seller to go and get the Italian equivalent to a U.S. notary with a translation. I could accept that. I could have it recorded. The new owner could take possession of the property. But what's happened is bad actors, and for the sake of this example, I'll say bad actors in Italy will find a friend that works as an Italian notary, or even someone who is an Italian person or an American person that works in a U.S. consulate or an embassy, to falsely certify these documents for them. And they're probably paying them or, whatever the case, in order to do these things. But at any rate, I get these back through DHL or FedEx or whatever overnight delivery service, and the documents are fine. Like, okay, so we've got, it's notarized, or it's got an apostille or the equivalent to, I'm going to go ahead and record this deed. All right, new buyer, congratulations. You can take title of this property now. And we issue a policy and everything else. So probably like the worst piece for us right now in real estate is that these people are going the extra mile beyond falsifying identification. They're getting in cahoots with, other people who have like legal stature in order to execute these documents for them in their foreign countries.
It's like an Ocean's 11 type of deal here. The real life Kaiser Sose.
100%.
That's intense, right? It's what we see, and it's the movies come to life.
Yeah, 100%.
Completely taking. Wow.
Because we've now been putting so much focus, and the whole country, if you're getting bulletins from an underwriter or a title company or anything like that, since we've been putting so much focus on these foreign bad actors now we've seen an uptick in domestic bad actors, Donna, which is what I've been dealing with for the last few days on a domestic bad actor, and that's that. I don't know how to segue into that story. It's got my blood pressure through the roof.
It seems like it's just going, like there's going to be a pretty big policy change moving forward as far as identity, because as we move into technologies like AI is incredibly what's it called? I forget exactly how, the deep fake with AI. I mean, and I always like to say, if the civilian population is able to use this technology, it's been around for at least a decade. So which just makes sense. So I could imagine being a lender or a mortgage broker or even a real estate agent. You're on the phone talking to somebody, and you can see this. I mean, it's tactile. You can see it, you can feel it, but you're starting to slip through the rug or slip on the banana just to be funny. And that's intense. It's a whole nother training. It's a whole nother. I mean, there's a revenue stream there as mortgage brokers to train your staff to look for these things. It's definitely a road to go down. It makes sense.
You
Yeah,
know,
so I can tell you that the revenue stream for us, our trading comes from our insurance carriers, the people who insure us to do business because there have been so many claims, and that whole process has become so much more intense.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Because
tell you about it.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I want to tell you about a couple of things as a real estate agent that I've recently experienced. This morning, I got one that was kind of funny, got a phone call. Hey, how are you? He's like, and I seen it was a Georgia phone number. And he's like, hi, Donna. I was just going through real estate online and I seen your picture and I just thought you were beautiful and I wanted to call you. I'm like, okay, thank you so much. How can I help you? Are you married? And I go, well, that's weird. That's what I said to the person, And then I got off the phone with him. It didn't go on any longer. But the calls that I've been getting recently are coming from WhatsApp. And there's somebody from Asia, generally. And the minute that you connect, they want you to start utilizing WhatsApp. And the story kind of goes like this, and I've had it happen to me several times. I'm looking for a specific type of property, right? And it's so specific that you think AI wrote it, right? It's like, I need this. I'll give you the example. I'm looking for 1, 2, or 3 homes. We're going to bring our company into the United States. We're going to work out of that for a while, but we want it to be in a great area so that when we're done, we can convert to Airbnb homes. Our prices are $2 million. That's the going rate with them, right? And so for a little bit, everything seems like, okay, maybe you are a buyer, but my light is always on when you don't want to talk to me and you want me just to convert with you on WhatsApp and you're not even available for a live video on WhatsApp. And then it turns into, do you use cryptocurrency? And I said, no. And then he says, well, everyone should be investing in cryptocurrency. And I'm like, well, I just invest in real estate. And he said, well, do you know about cryptocurrency? And I was like, well, enough. Not really, because I haven't dealt in cryptocurrency and I'm really not interested in cryptocurrency at all. I kind of am a normal person, I guess. I haven't segued into cryptocurrency. And they go back and forth. And then that conversation later that night, what they do is they send you a picture of what they were doing during the day, right? And maybe it's on a golf course, but they're in the United States on a golf course. It's just all really weird. And then it's, what did you have for dinner? I don't know. Like, I felt like before I met these people, because I had it happen to me 3 different times in a variation of what I'm telling you about, that they just are trying to get you. Whether it's your information, they're not interested in buying a home anytime soon. There's no proof of funds to go along with the big offer that they want to write. And a lot of other little things that any well-trained agent would know. This is not a real deal. You get excited because, like, one called me and said, do you still live in Deerfield Beach? I never lived in Deerfield Beach, right? Do you still do business there? Well, of course I do. I do business anywhere in the state of Florida, right? But then that again was, I need a 5-bedroom house. I'm looking at 2.5 million. And I feel like, that if you have not been in the business for a while and you don't have your radar on, that you could easily be sucked in as an agent to giving away your time, which is very valuable. and it's going to lead into nothing. And if you give too much of your time away, it could turn into fraud. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm super skeptical about that type of conversation with somebody. Thoughts?
That's really interesting, Donna. I had a client who's a CB agent over in Boca. She reached out to me, "Hey Jillian, we're making this offer on this house down in Golden Beach." And I was like, "Ooh, okay. $3.5 million house. I'm gonna need closing costs, going to connect you, with the client." And I'm used to dealing with people on WhatsApp, right? Because in the closings world, everybody's everywhere. So
Right.
he's gonna connect with you on WhatsApp, tell him how to send his escrow deposit, da 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 da. We went, and she was physically, she met this person in person and was taking him to see multi-million-dollar homes in Golden Beach. It was like an actual person. And, we moved forward. "Hey, where's this escrow deposit? Hey, the seller," but it was the same kind of all in WhatsApp. She did meet him personally. So I guess he took it like one step further and actually kind of physically materialized to see these places. But it ended up just being a huge time suck. And I spoke with a person at the FBI who we used to work with on our transactions, has since left and gone and started his own private, like, investigative financial crime type thing. I connected with him just to be like, "What is this? Like, what's the end game here? Like, what do you see? Like, what could this be as far as a threat to a real estate agent? More so than just like a time suck and wasting somebody's time." Like, no one really knows. No one really knows why, these people reach out through WhatsApp and become like fake leads and try to take everybody for a ride. It's really interesting.
Well, when he turned to cryptocurrency, I thought he's trying to get me to send him money. That was my immediate thought, and to obviously invest in cryptocurrency. But I'm going to be finding somebody that I know if I'm going to be doing something like that. It's not going to be with a random stranger. And my advice would be for anyone out there that's looking to purchase, buy, sell, get a mortgage, close a home, that you do it with somebody that you know or that comes highly recommended to you versus just a random search, on the internet. I also, I closed on a lot this past week up in Port St. Lucie. And as I was calling around trying to purchase a lot, I had 3 different real estate agents that had listings in that area that were pulling theirs off the market because it seemed to be fraud to them. And I don't know what the details of it were. I'm just saying that, as technology becomes sharper and smarter, we also need to be sharper and smarter. And you just don't know what you could maybe be getting yourself into. Stephen, I heard you have a good story for me.
On just the real estate fraud side of it, me and Jillian have dealt with one together that, what are we, a year now that they're finally reconciled it all? It's within the family too, so that's like even crazier about it.
What happened?
Forged documents, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we finally came down to. Like, they were like forged title or forged some kind of documents that were forged. So this one person had more ownership of the property than they did. And I remember Jillian saying, like, I just told him you need to go to an attorney. Like, this is what, like, it's past what we can do. And this lady just reached back out last week that, like, hey, everything, I think it was summer of 22 when we kind of found out it was fraud. And this is how long it's taken for them to correct it.
Well, what ended up happening at the end of the game? Did we end up closing on the property? And
we're getting to that point now. Yeah. So, like, they're trying to purchase it through their family. It was supposed to be willed over to them or however, what it was, but they're getting a mortgage on it, and it comes out to be fraud. The person that can sign it over to them is the fraudster on it. So we had to work through that. By we, I mean an attorney, however they did that part of it. But I think it's finally finalized where they can make it move and change hands now. But I mean, just how much this has affected. I mean, rates were at that time probably when they were purchasing 4s and 5s, and now they're going to be in the 7s. So I mean, like, can they really go back to that person and sue them for damages? Like, hey, you look how much more I have to pay. Like, is there even more involved in this kind of thing?
No, I'm sure they can. It's that way
Yeah.
in the stock market. If you have a startup company that you have an IPO on, and I short that in some kind of way where I cause damages to your stock, the exchange, the SEC will come after you and then what the money you would have made, you get to recoup. So hopefully it's the same way. I guess, wow, so many nefarious plots going on out there in the world.
A lot.
It's because you imagine showing up somewhere, you bought a home and you show up, and then next thing you know, you can't live there. Everything's done. You've done a little move. Wow, that's a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, it's nuts. And the case that Steve and I were kind of associated with, if I can say it that way, that was a family thing. Like, that was all.
Yeah.
That was an uncle, a mom, son, like all these people were involved in this.
Thanksgiving will be awkward this year.
Right? Like, how does this work
be weird
during the holidays? We're dealing with a case right now. Last week, it's not too far-fetched to have to send away documents for like a seller to have to sign for closing or something like that, right? So last week we had a mail away closing for a seller. We sent off the documents. I got them back late Thursday. I was not supposed to have them back until like today, but I got them back late Thursday. And the documents, I've never seen. I mean, there are more often than not cases where you can tell someone has like maybe signed for somebody, or maybe somebody witnessed a document that should have witnessed it, something of that nature. But like, the documents that I got back were obvious, clear forgery. And the property owner in this case is an absentee owner who resides in New Jersey, who just so happens to be an 85-year-old woman. So now here we are on Monday trying to track down this poor 85-year-old woman, locate family members, see if anybody is aware of what this listing agent down here in an unnamed county that I will leave unnamed is trying to do with this property.
Wow.
I guess the word buyer beware that's been used so many times in real estate really needs to be ringing in a lot of people's ears right now, because, from a fraud standpoint, if somebody's willing to take from you, you have to think, like, what else are they willing to take? Am I safe? Because you may not be. They tell us all the time, that a first-time buyer should come into the office. You should have a sit-down meeting with them. Now, that kind of went away because of COVID, and people were, on the fly out there all the time, just trying to make the deal happen. But when you really think about somebody making the largest investment of their lifetime in a home, which is probably it, right? We probably all agree that that's the biggest money that you're going to ever spend. Can you really trust somebody sending you their driver's license that is who you say it is, and then you drive off and you go meet this person and you don't even know who you're meeting? And unfortunately, we've lost lives in real estate before because somebody wasn't protected and didn't know where they were going, and a lot of different issues. So I don't know. It really has my radar on, if you will. I don't want to be just randomly meeting somebody. I do carry security with me. I'll not tell you what kind of security, but I do try to keep myself protected and let people know where I'm going. So for all my fellow real estate agents that are out there right now, I want you to also have your radar on, and just beware, because the world is not like it was in 1950 with no technology. And Bob, that's your neighbor, may not be the person selling you real estate. Especially if you're making a cross country move, like a lot of people are, to the state of Florida. What else have you had happen, Stephen?
Recently, I guess it's still under investigation, so I guess it's bank fraud. We always hear about wire fraud. Make sure that when the title company sends you their wire instructions, that you're calling them and getting it exact, and then going in person to the bank, not just emailing over it and everything, because that's quickly. Somebody hacks into your email, they see all that, they can, once that money's wired, you're probably not seeing it again. But this one was on, I guess, the bank teller. I don't know exactly their position, but it was kind of weird to us, is that we had a couple buying a house. Just one of them was on the loan. The fiance on the other side was not on the loan, so they were gifting money over for closing, and they went to, keep it unnamed for now. They went to the bank to wire the gift over, and they changed the numbers. The bank changed some numbers on their wire to, I don't know where they were sending the money. And it was like 11 grand. It wasn't a lot. So it's not like they're getting super rich off of it. And it's like, you think you're going to get caught, but it became a very process where we're like, okay, you sent the wire from this bank, title company still doesn't have it. What's going on? Maybe it was sent as an ACH, and then they're looking at their wire form, and like the last two numbers of the account number are changed where it's going, kind of thing. Wow. And lo and behold, like FBI is involved, somebody's arrested for it, and it's still an ongoing investigation. But it's like, you have to still be careful. They're doing all the right steps, like, okay, going in person, making sure the wire information they have is correct, and you're not thinking that the person at the bank is the one that's committing the fraud, kind of thing. And that's what happened. So it's like, you have to double check, like right then and there, like, okay, was all this correct, kind of thing? Because maybe they would raise a flag then, and that person would be like, oh crap, I'm almost caught. Like, let me change it real quick. But yeah, that's the most. That was only
scary.
2 weeks ago, kind of thinking. Yeah, they luckily they called the corporate froze it all and got the money back. I think the guy's account's still frozen because it's with the FBI now doing everything. But that's just crazy what could happen.
And it wasn't the first time he did it; just the first time he got caught.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's that. Yeah, man. The world we live in, it's an amazing world. Technology is great, and there's good and evil, right? So most of us are doing the right thing. The few that aren't, it definitely shines a brighter light. But as far as going with what Donna was saying, in your iPhone, there's actually an emergency SOS. You go into your settings, you push SOS, and you can set up this emergency. It's not an app; it's just a feature in the phone where if you're out by yourself, you're showing the home, you press the call button 5 times real fast. It'll call 911 for you. Give them your location, and the authorities will show up to where you're at. So there's ways to keep safe, and things happen. Just keep your head on a swivel.
And so I think protecting your information is a big portion of staying safe in the cyber world, if you will, because I've been told many times that it's better to use my CB Realty email versus a Gmail account whenever I'm receiving and getting information. I can't talk a lot on it. I just do as I'm told, really, because if somebody's telling me that's safer, I believe it, you know. Have you guys heard something like that before?
Yeah. Excuse me. And I'll tell you why, Donna. So, going back to what Steve was talking about, a little bit of wire fraud, one of the reasons why title companies and real estate brokerages, home originators, we're going to put you aside, Steve, because everything you do is already secure anyway. But one of the reasons why CB Donna will tell you use your at CB or your at Florida Moves email address is because that is all done through secure email servers.
Mm.
So CB with their, information technology department, they have their own firewalls, they have their own, spam filters and stuff like that in that email. Whereas, if you and I are using our Gmail accounts, we're kind of like butts in the breeze out there. So if I'm sending, if you send over a contract and you've got the buyer and your buyer needs to wire escrow funds, the last thing I'm going to do is email you wiring instructions ever, because fraudsters love to hack real estate agents' email accounts because they can get in, drop their little bug in there, and they can literally monitor the timeline and the progress of any real estate transaction, get my wiring instructions that I might have sent to you to your Gmail, doctor them up a little bit, send them to your buyer and pretend to be me, and get your buyer to wire them money instead of wiring it to me.
Oof.
It's so scary.
It's super scary, but I mean, luckily, your brokerage has protections in place for you.
Yes.
But like one thing that I will do in lieu of emailing wiring instructions to anybody, because I don't ever send them to agents, I'll send them directly to, a purchaser, is instead of emailing them, I will send them text images. I will text them the wiring instructions, our actual document, an image of our document, just because it's so much safer and more secure to do it that way rather than through email.
Yeah.
One of the
cyber. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Jeff.
I was just gonna say cybersecurity is one of the leading industries right now, because that is where we are at as a society. Everything is online. Man, it's crazy to see how many things are just falling. I guess starting to fall through the cracks, right? Because the technology that we have now is where our standpoint is like we're kind of behind. We're behind the ball a little bit, and we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
And I will say,
we
like,
don't think like criminals, Jeff.
Yeah.
We don't think like criminals, so we don't know.
No.
We don't know how to be proactive and outsmart criminals. So yeah.
Anything you do, they're going to always take the step to, once you put one protection in place, the whole criminal mind is, how do I get past that protection? And then you got to put another one in place. I mean, you're slowing them down. You're not stopping them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always do whenever I'm looking to buy or somebody is looking to sell is, as an agent, I'm going to go in, I'm going to find their property, and I'm going to pull IMAP that also links, which is something that the board offers us. I'm going to take that IMAP, and the first thing I'm going to look at is who the owner of the property. Because many times, like in this land deal that I was doing, I was finding that the person's name that's at the county or on the IMAP records isn't who's trying to sell it. And then I'm finding out that, that person just died. Well, how long does it take for somebody to get through probate, Jillian?
It depends. If the person does not have a whole bunch of errors or any errors, or maybe just a couple of errors, you can do what's called a speedy probate. And depending upon the time of year and who their attorney is, that can be done in as little as 90 days. I've seen some take years.
Yes. Yeah. And so that just,
wow,
for me, is always just a first step into making sure what I'm getting ready to offer someone is legit.
Right.
Because, when people pass away and money is at play, people will play to get the money. And, I don't know how to say it any simpler than that, but people become very greedy and they want it fast. And they could be like this family you guys were talking about, not have the power to do what they're trying to do. And then you long term, for being in a hurry to get something done, could get hung up, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. So nothing's impossible, right? We get people under contract and we're successful in that regard. And sometimes once we get those properties under contract, we find things in searching and title, municipal lien searches, things like that. Nothing's impossible, nothing's unsurmountable. Everything, however, requires time, which is something that you cannot replace. And sometimes a lot of money. So it's awesome, Donna, that you do your due diligence and you go into IMAP and hopefully you cross-check all those names in IMAP and public record as well.
Yes.
And you make sure at least the instruments on the front end have the correct, selling human or entity on them, because if it doesn't, then you don't even have a viable contract.
Right.
It's pretty fantastic that you go ahead and take those steps and be proactive.
Well, it's just a beginning, but just in all of our professions, whether you're seeking credit solutions, mortgage solutions, or title solutions, you definitely want to have the four of us on your side, because we are definitely all trained to have our radars on and be looking out for your best interest. Gosh, we have 2 minutes left in our show. Can you believe how fast it goes?
Fraud takes up time.
Jeff, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
If I do have a human who has been subject to fraud and has some things pop up on their credit report that they might need some help with as a result, that's definitely something you guys can jump in.
No, that's definitely something that we can take care of. It's actually pretty simple at that point. I would say, if there's fraud on the account, first thing you're going to do is get a police report. That legitimizes that fraud, right? The credit bureaus are held to, they have rules that they have to abide by. These rules are set in place by the FCRA. So this is a government regulated entity. So if you have a police report that shows what account, the account number, the name of the account, and what is been falsified, that's almost as easy as sending your client over to us. We'll go through that. We'll go through exactly what it needs, and then we'll send that off to the bureaus, letting them know that it's fraud and inaccurate information. And because it's inaccurate information, it must be removed or updated on the credit report, depending on what our goal is, right? So, a late pay wouldn't go for that, but a charge-off, right? A charge-off account on your credit report is definitely not something that any mortgage company wants to see, or any lender wants to see. It will tie up a deal. So if we're able to remove it, and also inquiries, right? You had somebody out there running your name and racking up inquiries, and if you have, we've seen people with 20 plus inquiries. That's also something that a lender is not really going to want to see, or to lend you if you're out there just figuring out who's going to give me some money, right? So that we could do the same. I think the process for there's our little guy right there. There he goes. But yeah, it's that simple. And anybody you need, we'll send it over.
Donovan's giving us the
2 minutes are up.
the swirly finger.
Well, I want to
Awesome.
thank Jeff, that is my co-host on the show, for being on with us today from LC's Credit Solutions. I'd like to thank Stephen Brock from Family Mortgage, also a military veteran. I always like to say that. I love him. And Jillian Montague, the director from Core Title. I'd like to thank you all for bringing in your insights, and hopefully we are making the world a safer place by providing some information that you may not know that is out there right now. So we are back here next Monday at 3:00. We hope you'll join us again on Real Estate Dreams and Beyond. Until next time, stay safe, stay dry, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye.